Hi there. I thought I'd give probably one last video. I haven't posted a video since I got into Adelaide, which I did yesterday afternoon, just after lunch. It's about a 54k ride in from Gawler on the Stuart O'Grady dedicated cycle track. That was actually quite funny because all through this series of videos I've been talking about the headwinds that I encountered, which pretty much were every day apart from the first sort of day and a half. But ironically, as I turned for home yesterday, a strong tailwind kicked in. So I was screaming down the highway at 34 and 35 and 27 and 28 into Adelaide. So that actually was quite funny. This video I'm sort of really directing at those who might be considering doing the nullarbor trip. I'm not positioning myself as any kind of expert here. It's just as per that the mood of those video diaries was just my experience of how I went about it and what I encountered, and if I was to do it again, would I make any changes? I think probably, and it's a pretty obvious one, if you're going to consider doing the nullarbor, it's not something to be taken lightly, and I actually, as I do with most of my sort of adventures, I reviewed it, researched it pretty intensely, because it's not the place for something to break, man or machine. It's a pretty unforgiving environment, the nullarbor, so you can't really call for help and you can't stop at the local shop and whatever else. So I would urge you to do your research thoroughly, and I think that research starts with what time of the year you're considering doing it. Now, I picked that window after looking at the meteorology for just months and months and months, and I picked that window where I had a pretty acceptable probability of tailwinds off my quarter either side, or with some expectation of winds that weren't helpful, but a high expectation of westerlies, nor'westerlies, west sou'westerlies, etc. Now, most atypically, even for the probability wind roses of the Bureau of Meteorology, that didn't happen, and we got a succession of nor'easterlies, easterlies, southeasterlies, southeasterlies, etc., as was noted every day in those videos. So, but having said that, you can't do any more than use the research that you've got. So the Bureau of Meteorology is the place to start. There's no way I would consider doing that trip in summer. I mean, I had cold temperatures, which I eventually got pretty used to, but doing it in summer sets up a whole world of pain, if not for the pure practical issues of what you've got to carry. You've got to carry so much more water, and I carried enough water, but you've got to carry so much more water, and those winds are virtually non-stop southeasterlies, and they're strong southeasterlies. So you've got very hot temperatures, 42, 44, 45, and very strong headwinds. So I would think closely about considering doing it in summer. In terms of a bike, I mean, so many people do so many huge trips on all kinds of different bicycles. I think that's very much up to you. Of course, if you're doing the nullarbor, you're probably a pretty experienced cyclist, so you're not going to attempt the nullarbor on a carbon bike, because as we know, it's hard to mount things on carbon, and if they break or crack, you're in problems. So it's going to be an aluminium or steel bike. I personally prefer the 26-inch size, and I prefer the ergonomics of a 26-inch mountain bike frame. I lock out the front end, so it's only got about a 5mm give in it, and I leave it at that. I have a high pressure in the front end, so it just gives a tiny bit of give. That suits me. And the 26-inch wheels also I prefer. Mine's a standard Dior triple at the front. I think 2244 and a 1234 I think at the back. I tried various cassettes, and that kind of range suited me. And just talking about gearing for the moment, the nullarbor is not flat. There's a instinctive sort of thoughts about the nullarbor that it's flat. It's not flat. Hundreds of k's of it's flat, but it's mostly hilly. It's rolling hills, and some of those hills are not. I think it would be conservative to call them rolling. Some of them are nasty hills that go for many kilometres, hours in fact. So So be well aware of that in your preparation. You've got to do a lot of hill riding and a lot of wind riding. I knew there'd be wind. I actually trained in the wind a fair bit. I used to go on the weekend and wait for the. I live in the west coast of Australia in Perth. I used to wait for the strong sea breeze to come in. Then I'd wait for it. Then I'd go out and I'd ride into it. So I'd let my tyres down to below their appropriate pressures. I'd load up with water to have a lot of weight on board, and I'd just make it a difficult ride into the wind for 2 or 3 hours, etc., to get accustomed to that.